Sure. And we are live. Welcome to The Contradiction with myself, Byron McDonald, and Lathia McCann. As I say each week, Facebook is a private interface, so if you do get logged off, just hop back into the page and you'll find a new link there. We're also multi-streaming on various platforms, so comment and engage.
Hey, listen up. If you're lucky enough to fall in love with someone, I love you. Try not to ruin it by Googling them. Okay.
The Contradiction with Lathia McCann and Byron McDonald.
Just to make sure you don't forget what we look like.
So as I say each week, The Contradiction is about bringing different viewpoints together and allowing you, the viewer, the opportunity to comment and engage and share your viewpoint on the topic. So our guest host for tonight's show is an amazing I almost said amazing couple. We have two amazing guests.
They are amazing couple. They do a show together in the morning.
They do an online show together called Liquid Love. So let me just get into who they are. That it's Soli Philander and Sharon van Schoor. Soli was born and bred in River, Cape Town, and after matriculating from John Ramsey High School in Bishop Lavis, he says he just fell into acting when he accompanied a friend of his to an audition. Since then, Soli has performed in many prominent theatres nationally as well as internationally, and he is definitely one of South Africa's most top and versatile performers, wearing many hats from being a director, a TV presenter, a comedian, an award-winning actor, playwright, motivational speaker, and community activist. And then we have Sharon van Schoor. She is originally from Athlone in Cape Town. She is a loving mother to her two beautiful kids and has two beautiful grandchildren, and also is a co-host with Soli Philander on the online show Liquid Love.
Ooh.
So without any further ado, let us go ahead and welcome Sharon and Soli.
Hey guys.
Hi, you guys. Nice to see you, Byron. Yeah. Hi.
How you guys? What have you guys been up to lately?
Ooh. Oh, we had a lovely lunch this afternoon.
With Maddie and Henry.
Yes, on Liquid Love, we have quite a strong sort of following, people who love our craziness. And she's originally from Johannesburg, but she's married to...
from Cape Town.
From Cape Town, married to a guy from Johannesburg, from Pretoria. And they've been together for about 10 years. And they came down to Cape Town this weekend, and then they insisted on coming to see us, and they took us out for lunch, and it was magnificent.
Oh, nice.
Perfect.
Nice.
Very good.
From Sharon's side, Sharon is just quiet. Sharon just says, yes, Soli, that's what we did.
Sharon, quiet. Oh. No comment.
We can occasionally, yes.
This is a show now. We're on a show. We're being nice.
So you must act the part.
Yeah, I was just winding you guys up. That's the reason being because of the topic. And I just want to warm people up into this topic. He is arguing or crying it so much because Soli, you know I can go. We can speak for hours, but we've got only an hour. So
I was just saying to Sharon, it's only an hour, but check how quickly it goes. Yeah.
So the question is arguing a natural part of a relationship? This is why we have guest hosts. We shoot it to them first. Lathia and I dissect, and you, the viewer, you have your opinion to give also.
Comment and engage.
No, Byron, that is not why you have guests. That is not, no. If I can volunteer to leap in first into this, I'm going to say that, the answer is yes. And that the question is really, I think, is the nature of that argument, the nature of arguing and how you argue. But arguing, that's going to happen. I think any idea that two people from different backgrounds, even a similar background, can attempt to or can agree to attempt something together, and that there's not going to be disagreement and conflict and just a need for compromise and all those things. I think it's an obvious one, and I think the big one is the way in which that is handled, how you argue.
Okay.
No, I agree with you.
100%. Sharon?
Bisa mase nou dan ook nou nie. Almal, we know this. Ek gaan nie jou argue nie. Ek gaan net straight sê. That is a form of argument. En oor dit net straight sê, gaan die argument vat nie. Ek wil dit debate nie. Everybody hoor wat Jacob sê daaroor nie. Raak maar kwaad en kom weer reg. But yes, that's also a form of argument. It really, really is.
You sound like Lazal. Lazal van Vieren says arguing is natural. Fighting
Of
should
course it
never
is.
be. Yes,
You
but
can't
where does
agree on
fighting come from?
everything all the time. No.
Eh?
You can't agree on everything all the time. So yes. But
The
like I
thing-
said, I just keep quiet. I don't say anything.
But there's the
Oh,
thing though.
Let me tell you,
Hopefully it just goes away.
I'm waiting to still run into her ex so I can tell him I get why. But I'll tell you an interesting thing. And why that is important to me, that how thing is. Because, relationships aren't just romantic relationships. They're also work relationships. And when working with Sharon is someone, if she doesn't agree with something, the key thing for her is to bring that across. She just needs you to know, I don't agree with that. And if you listening to her tone or watching her body language or the intensity with which she's saying it, you'll be like, oh my God, are we fighting? What are we fighting? I didn't mean for us to fight. That's what I mean. For her, she's not arguing. She's just saying.
But
Yeah,
don't argue.
for me, it works like this.
Yeah.
But it can sound like an argument if you don't know her. And if
Oh,
there hasn't been that.
And
That
my
getting to
voice
know one
is
another.
very loud.
Yep.
And when I want to bring that point across, it just goes even louder. And people mistake it.
So you don't argue, you just speak loud.
So
People
She never chooses the
argue.
subtle
wait,
option.
wait. Let me get this right. So Sharon, you
Yeah.
with Soli, right? And you don't argue ever with Soli. Is there a reason you don't argue with Soli? Not because you don't argue, of wat sy weet Soli gaan nie die
That's a
laaste
good
sê,
question.
laat gesê word as hy dit nie gesê het nie.
No, she doesn't argue because she tells me what to do. And that's what I mean. I would have to argue. There is no argument from her side. She's clear. Babes, you want to do that? And I'm like,
No
okay.
negotiating.
Because
Let's collaborate first.
I'm not going to argue and then, do all that stuff. Or I could just do it because the
Because
point is
that's
really
the-
that I'm going to have to do it eventually. Eventually, might as well do.
Let me maybe take some comments. Ek weet nou nie of die vir jou is, Soli. Ek dink dit is vir jou. Oh, it says Soli. Soli, so we're having our argument here. Why you never say hello and always serious in Grand West?
Right? Say again.
Anders Sharon vra vir jou. Sien, die Sharon is op jou keus. Anders Sharon vra vir jou. Hoekom? Why you so always so serious in Grand West and never greet? As,
Sharon, Jay is known a buyer forgotten past, matey. There's been COVID. I haven't been to Grand West in like 2 years.
She's holding grudges from the past.
Matey, move on. Let's move on, Sharon. Sharon,
COVID happened.
don't
That's
argue
done
with
and
you,
you leave.
Sharon. I don't want to argue with you, Sharon, but you should move on. You really?
If we can just go to Jason's comment. Jason says, I prefer to rather get whatever the issue is off my chest because it will come out sometime. Rather don't keep it in because when things build up inside and it eventually comes out, it won't be good at all.
or maybe just take one more comment.
Stanley Jacobs, we are different and we will all disagree sometimes with each other. Ons is ander mense se kinders mos.
Okay.
So
I believe arguing is not a natural part of a relationship. It should
But
not
you're a
be.
freak. You're a freak. We know that. So, I mean, I don't know. What are we going to do with that statement now?
If he's a freak, then what am I? Because I'm sitting with the freak then.
You're a freak lover. You're a freak lover is what you are.
She's freaky. But anyway, but Sharon, I think Sharon agreed. Sharon, when you argue with someone, and Soli now said you just tell people what to do. When you argue with someone, it takes a lot out of you. So, do you naturally try to keep yourself away from arguments, or are you quickly drawn into arguments? That's the question.
I try and stay away from it
Mm.
because the more you are going to go on about it, the louder I'm just going to become. And I just say no.
Mm.
Walk away.
Yeah.
Because the more cross I become, the louder I become. I'm one of that kind of aunties. Really.
Because
So I try not to argue with people.
It brings me back to that how point. Because what does it accomplish? Eventually, if everybody's just standing there screaming at one another, what are you accomplishing? You are not doing anything. And then what I think that is a negative expression of anger. Because I think, or of arguing. Because I think there is a positive thing that can come out of arguing. There is a good argument can force you to contextualize what you believe, to articulate what you believe, to become for yourself clear about what you believe.
Exactly.
So that's a really positive thing.
Of course.
But I think positive argument needs maturity. If you're gonna argue in a way that you arguing towards resolve and solution, maturity required. Then it's really, because you've got to understand that when you're angry, you often say things that you wouldn't say.
Exactly.
Even if whether it's true or not is immaterial. Yeah, it's immaterial whether it's true or not. It's the saying of it that ruins the whole thing. So the idea is that when we start looking at the what makes an argument, what provokes an argument, and how should we be in an argument, and should we set goals for an argument? Should we be going, hey, look, we're damn arguing here. Okay, cool. That means there's something happening here that we need to resolve. So we're not moving from here till we've resolved that. I don't care whether you agree with me or not. So then we better approach this in a way that so then we start negating right in the argument already the need for saying things like stupid, which is stuff that you say in arguments. You stupid, man. Of course you don't mean it, but you say it. And the person who you're saying it to knows you don't mean it, but they hear it. They hear it more than if you meant it. So if we know those kind of, there's an idea that as children we argue and we are told, stop it. That's what our parents do. They don't go, come here. What are you arguing about? Isn't there a better way for us to resolve this? No, they go, stop it. Don't argue. Catch it, wait a minute. That's not natural. Parents can be that kind of dad. It's not natural. Don't do this. Then when you're older and you're about to go into, or you can feel here comes that mode, what do? You go, no, man. Go. You start going, no, I'm not going to argue. And then what happens, which was the point that someone made just before Stanley's point, and I can't remember that person's name right now, but that becomes part of that. That's where that saying, the camel's back, come from. The straw that breaks, because then you start, it's this thing, and you go, no, it's okay, I'll take it. And then it's that thing, and then it's that thing, and then one day someone says, oh, your hare like snacks vandag. And then that is the straw that breaks the camel's back, because it's actually the what you're saying is irrelevant, because it's actually how you've been approaching this whole thing. The thing is, what you're saying is irrelevant. The fact is that what you're doing is you're constantly criticizing me. You are constantly not taking my feelings into consideration. You are constantly denying that what I say is important isn't. That's what you're doing by going, oh, can I actually argue with you? It's more important that I don't argue than actually address what it is that bothers you, so that you are so evoked and so agitated that you are prepared to have a sit to about it. I turn away from that because I don't think arguing is natural. Baby, calm down. Go to sleep. We'll talk about this tomorrow. Like I'm a child. Like I can't tell for myself that this is a huge thing in my life. For me, my partner, the person who says they love me, my colleague who says they respect me, tells me, actually, it's not that big. That's what you're feeling. It's not that big. You shouldn't feel that. Chill and go away, go have a cup of tea. And then tomorrow when you're calm and you start understanding the limitations of your situation, then we'll talk about it. Basically, we'll talk tomorrow about how busted you are and really that it's terrible.
That makes you more upset.
Let me just go through some of these.
You up more
Let me.
But it's also maybe good that you walk away.
So
Because if you're both in that mood, you're gonna argue forever.
exactly.
So calm down and come back, and then we can chat.
But that's at a point. That's not avoiding the argument. That is walking away from the argument becoming skew and negative. It's something my grandmother told me when I was very young. She said, "You will argue with your wife one day." She said like that. She said, "You will argue with your wife one day, but when the argument becomes ridiculous, you." This was my grandmother, and that's the patriarch and the matriarch and all that stuff. She said, "Your responsibility as a man is to take your hat and your jacket and go walk. You go cool down before you do and say stuff that you're gonna regret forever." So my grand had this idea that a man's role in that scenario is that,
Aside.
well, no, that a man's role was to remember that the woman in the house, because that was how it was like then, was running the house. She, the whole mechanism of their existence, she ran. He funded it, but she ran it. So she had all that pressure. So it would be so much easier for her to snap and to say, "Vijay na Jay Byron, ek nou vir jou nou dit sê, en ek nou lank af jou dit gesê het. En nou is ek gatvol.
Ek weet.
Nou gaan jy toe. Ek wou nog nie dit vir jou gesê het nie, maar jy moet nou dik. Jy moet nou dik. Wat if jy nou dit sê? Vijay na, daai wat jy dink jy so wonderlik en jy kooi, jy is so Mr. Dinges. Jy is so. Ek gaan
maar
nou
jy
vir
maar
my pilop sê, man. Ek pretend jy jou bastard. Don't get you great. You see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? Because I'm actually not trying now anymore to resolve the conflict. I'm trying to hurt you. Because you're hurting me. You are hurting me by refusing to acknowledge that I should feel like this.
Exactly.
You are hurting me. Now I want to hurt you.
And that is when the argument becomes toxic. Is when you reach the
Horrible.
jugular, because you now want to
Then it
bust
becomes about your mother and your uncle
and your family
and a
and
friend
your
from
pa.
you.
It's easy to go for the juggler, but let's quickly go to some of the comments because all the comments are speaking about growth and maturity when it comes to arguments, and then I'll say something afterwards. Arguing with love is a sign of maturity. For example, you can still argue but use your pet names in between to get the point across. Okay. Jason says arguing is the key to a resolution. Yeah, and me, I haven't been there either yet. Okay, so I praat nog altyd van Grand West. So let me go.
Oh, Sharon.
Hi,
But that's a
everyone.
groot issue. Sharon, please, honey. Please.
Sharon.
Move on.
Let me just go. Okay, so Dalton says, Sharon, Arab Sharon. Dalton says, "Hi, everyone. I agree there will be a disagreements in the relationship, but fighting is not the way we should handle it." And then Lazelle van Verum said, "If arguing is defined as discussing differences, then that is part of growth in a relationship. Discussing differences in mature way." Ons gaan net nog twee vat of drie. Go. Depends what the argument is about. Sharon, again, okay, something else depends what the argument is about. As jou man Joel is a different case. But as hy kouse en klere net so rondgooi, skel jou man met net so 'n rond vry en alles is weg. Anyway, so Dylan says arguing is key to a certain extent, but where is that line that stops? Where's that line that stops an argument from escalating further that with sometimes dire consequences? I feel an argument should be resolved as soon as possible once cooler heads prevail.
Yes.
Good point. En dan gaat Sharon weer sy sexy kant toe. So I say sometimes it's liquor to argument so you can kiss and make up. That's the best. That's what she's saying. Anyway.
Excuse me. Don't rush past that one. And I think I want to say that I think it is for people in long-term relationships understand this, that your relationship hits the point where you have a kind of you're agreeing, you're moving around beautifully, and then something happens where there is a fundamental, it's an approach to life disagreement, and there is a very sweetness in after the resolve, after arriving at the place where you compromise. There is that loveliness of that's why we're together, because we can move through things like this and arrive the other end whole and still loving and respecting one another. It's a very special. That makeup sex is actually a lovely thing.
Let me just
That's
take.
when I used to say, "Jy moet nie gaan kwaad slaap nie."
Moenie kwaad
Some
gaan slaap.
people
It's a
intentionally want
very
to argue.
It's a
But this is what I
valuable-
want to get at. I want to ask you all a question, but I want to just read these two comments and I'm going to ask you all the questions. I normally walk away saying, send me an email and I'll respond. So the argument is done
Responsibly.
responsibly. Yeah. So you have proof of your argument.
Okay.
Woo!
And then
Arguing is part,
I'm sorry. Send me an email.
Ek gaan by my nommer fok maak. Moet my nie. How does other parents
Nog
say?
kwaadder.
Seker nog nie lekker in jou dinges gemaak nie.
Arguing is from
Oh,
YouTube side.
email. Yes, like, wow.
From
No,
YouTube
please
side.
don't argue over WhatsApp. Don't even argue over the phone. Believe me, you
Yes.
wanna. There is nothing a written. The misinterpretation of a written text. Oh my word! A
Mm.
misspelled word or a comma or a space or
exclamation.
Now you want to do this stuff face to face. Face to face.
Also, so is now going back to that in 10 years time.
Kyk
Oh,
wat
nou
het jy
sy
hier
sê.
gesê.
Exactly. There's evidence.
Slendy.
Van elke email.
Slendile says arguing is part of growth. It is impossible to be in sync with someone just because you are in a relationship. Now, guys, you all now like saying argue is a natural part. Arguing, yes, must happen for growth and stuff. But
Not
where? No.
I don't actually agree that
Okay,
arguing
then you
is
can-
a natural part of a relationship. I feel that disagreeing is a natural part of a relationship. Having differences and discussing them is a natural part of a relationship. But I think that society has made us believe that arguing is natural. So now we just continue doing it with emotions running high. I think the important part is to understand where these emotions are coming from. And before we actually want to address a topic or a situation, we first need to do some introspection
Context.
to
Get the
understand
context.
ourselves before we actually approach the situation.
And-
because we go into an argument already being blazing, full of emotions, and now, instead of it being resolved, instead of fighting for the resolution, we are fighting to defend ourselves and defend our feelings and defend our ego because this is how this person made me feel, instead of trying to understand what was this person's intention. And I think that once we understand that everything that our partner does is for the best, is in good intention for us and for our relationship, then it will be easier to move through and to navigate through the argument, to find a
Well,
resolution.
we hope, because remember, that's in an ideal world. You're talking about two people who love each other. But say if you're in a dysfunctional relationship, you're in a relationship where someone is there, not necessarily maybe because they love the person, but because they've decided, I'm going to make my life work with you. I have benefits here. I'm going to make this as a choice and I'm going to build something, or they're there for convenience, or for whatever reasons, or it's an abusive relationship or any of those things. Then we start moving into other very, very complicated kind of thinking around that dynamic. But I think for me again, we are talking about degrees, because there's fighting, which is a form of argument. But I don't think fighting is a good idea in any context.
Fighting is not argument. That's just
And I think
abuse.
with regards to
And then there's that stuff where people get personal and it's name calling and that calling each other's families out and that kind of stuff. And toe jy op skool gewees het en ek het gehoor van jou wat jy sleg gewees het van op die basis. all that stuff. Which I
But then
also
it's
argument
then-
that's just petty
then
crap.
plain and
But I
simple
think
for
if
me.
it's about maybe we need to talk and we need to sit down. Okay, this is what I wanted to say. When we're doing those things, there's things that we do then, and I don't even know where to put this in this context. But coming out of a relationship of more than 30 years, I'm going to tell you that if I can give anyone advice around argument, there are just words that you use. You are automatically schooled to use them. They come automatically to you. You're not conscious that you do it, that you should never use. And one of those words is never when you're arguing. And don't ever say always. Do you know how many times you say in an argument, you never say you love me? Now, look, that's not true. You know it's not true. But you say that. You always make me feel like and now you making someone else responsible for how you feel. Do you know what I
Exactly.
mean? There's the way. This is what I come back to this how. There's this we you just like your father, we say to our children. Do you know what I mean? Without the it's this it really is. We stupid as human beings because we literally do the kind of things that we heard at some point somebody else do, and we went then. Wow, can't believe it. I just said that. We do that. We go and we do that. We do that to our
That's
children.
human nature.
You know what I mean? We like
That's human nature.
Yeah, but that's
and
what.
that's why I say that before you actually address a situation, first
Where's it
look
coming
in
from?
yourself and ask yourself, look, where is this coming from? Is this something that he did that is reminding me from a past experience? Because maybe what he did is not his intention to make me feel a certain way. So I need to first understand myself before I make judgment or point a finger or blame somebody else for what is happening internally within myself. Because I think that is, in most cases, you perceive things based on your past experiences. And then we react and we become defensive and we blame instead of taking responsibility for our own feelings and also how we choose to behave.
But now what
That's
we're
lovely,
doing
that's
is
lovely, but
we we are
I
we are
want to
also.
caution. I want to caution because there is
Eh?
that's that thing that women do. So I want to caution this. I really do because it's that thing that women do. So everything you just said, Lithia, I think perfect. Again, let me say, in a healthy relationship, and I don't even know how I would define that, but in a relationship where people are respecting one another, that it's in a loving engagement, that it's
Yes.
positive. Because in a dysfunctional relationship, and especially in those relationships where women are abused in relationships, I want to be really, really clear to those women. It doesn't matter how hard you look inside yourself. And it doesn't matter what kind of evaluation you're doing. If a man is physically, emotionally abusing you, get
Mm.
out. That would be
Mm.
my advice.
But
There, you
this is
are
my.
not to blame. You
Exactly.
there,
And
there is. It's not you.
and
Yeah,
That's
how
what I
but
want
not
to say.
even
you
not even
will
from a
show
man's side,
someone
man and woman, man and
For
woman,
whoever's
both
in
sides.
a relationship like that,
But
where you're being
this is where my point came from. Why I say arguing is not the natural part of a relationship. People's gonna say you mentioned the word dysfunctional relationships don't have healthy arguments. They have immature arguments. You mentioned it in between your chat now because if it's dysfunctional, they might not have a growth argument. They might go for the juggler, say your master D, your pastor D, and they have this raising calling of slutty liefde in as 'n mere lief vir jou. So it's how we've been brought up also, and how kids have been brought up. Yeah, say
cultural.
up of we've been mistreated. We've never been said that boy is hitting you because he's abusing you. It was always, ach, hy's lief vir jou. Hy wil habbe jou wees. Hy smaak jou. Parents believe that bullshit. Ach, die uncle wil maar net 'n bietjie nader aan jou sit. Kids are being touched for years by their uncles because our parents never wanted to talk about these things. Let's put it like
But
that.
similarly,
Leave
our
the
women sit
argument.
in situations where their own mothers say to them, "No, my baby, there's a man. A man,
Exactly.
guys, what a man.
But
I
not,
draw.
not just that,
Man's
Soli. Not
draw.
just that.
So now what
My
you must
problem
do
is,
is, my darling, you must just be a good wife. Sy moet nog altyd
Daar's
seker
it.
maak
Wat ek try
hou
toe
jy
net
jou
nou
style lekker. Wat is ja?
but this is what
Jy
I'm
moet dalk
saying.
vir 'n bietjie mooier aantrek en jy moet dalk, maak jy lekker kos vir jou man. It's like somehow, what are you doing that is
But
making your husband do those things?
I can only speak out of the Cape Flats, and I'm talking out of the Cape Flats, of the households I've seen, boys I grew up and stuff like that. The sore part is that a lot of these guys are indoctrinated that if you treat a woman like this, you're a man. If you treat her like this, you're a man. It's so near about all they see is their fathers, cousins saying, yeah, your P, your N, your D to their spouses or to their partners, and then they feel cool or mistreating them in front of their friends. So now, why I say arguing is not the natural part. We need to start making debating, use the word debating, a natural part of our relationships, not arguing. Because with arguments come anger, come resentment, comes hate, come all these things. Arguments are just another way of disagreeing. So you need to use the word maturity and say, yes, we need to, like Sharon also said, it's the ego, man. So we need to find a way to put our ego one side and say, okay, I'm in a relationship. When this person disagrees with me, they love me. I say to her a lot of time, when I disagree with you, it's not to hurt you or because I want to be right. It's because I love you. So whatever I say comes from a good intention. So we need to start instilling that even in dysfunctional relationships, because people will then stay with someone because they can beat that person up or misuse that person, and people will be too scared to stand up for themselves because it becomes their norm.
Well, I think it's a slight conflation of two issues, and for me, the very careful, what we have to very carefully address is the idea of women on the Cape Flats living in an environment where they are exposed to misogyny. That guises itself its argument. A woman walking down the road and a whole lot of guys, and she lives over there, and a whole lot of guys saying, her response is not argument. That's not. What they're doing is not arguing. They're being dismissive. They're being patriarchal. They're just being scummy, actually, and they're being abusive. And her response is not an argument. Her response is survival. Her response is, what do I do here so that I. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's about making that distinction. When we say those things, you see, those things that are happening there now, the psychosis that we see there now. If you remember, in District 6, if some little asshole decided to say to one of the women walking by, "Yeah, Auntie J, da 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 da," he would have 2 seconds, because first the auntie's going to say something to him that is going to take him most of his life to recover from. Most of his life. The whole community will remember what that auntie said in the form of argument. And then the fight would be picked up by the guys around who would go, "Jay, your cleanness not gat, it's in your respect." So in our culture, that is addressed. And there's a way of doing that, except what we live is the consequences of our culture being torn apart, split up in a million pieces, thrown out there and say, "Deal, come up with something and let us know when you've sorted something, then maybe we'll allow you back." So what we do with there is the idea that our women, straight up, that we live with the idea that our very own women aren't as sacred as, for example, say, white women.
It's because of us. Yes.
If a white woman walks through Manenberg now, the entire 70% of Manenberg will come out and try and assure her safety. They just
You're
will.
right. And that's not a word. Even in the workplaces, say for instance, a white woman work between a lot of colored people, she gets a higher position with the same, probably even lesser credentials. You see what's happening in the DA. Hulle almal het matriek, maar ons is wat hard gestudy het is still not clever enough. And this is what's happening. People need to wake up and smell the coffee. There's always an excuse for someone that they see.
But it's always because it's always really easy to do it to women of color.
So not even of color. Let's put it like this.
All for me, because men of color do not come up for women of color. I'm going to say it again, really slowly. Men of color do not come up for women of color. Mampela Rampela was treated like trash by the DA. Where was the outrage? Where? Patricia DeLoe was treated like trash by the DA.
Where was the outrage?
Where was the outrage? Brett Heron makes a comment about Natasha Mazzoni. The entire South Africa is in uproar. There is very idols, South Africa, after yet another colored woman from the Cape won it. Do you remember? What happened after that? Suddenly we ran out of colored women who could sing, just like that. Boom! Overnight, we had idol after idol after idol after idol. Once the colored women started becoming idols, colored woman after colored woman became an idol. And then suddenly, we just ran out of colored women who could sing.
And then our people had to go win another competition to show them.
True. And that is why when a colored man dates a white woman, it's amper so, hey, hy het 'n wit vrou, né?
Hy
As
is
a
ook gesê,
what?
hy is ook gesê vir die mense sy is
No,
wit.
up.
Sy
Anyway,
het blonde haar en blou.
hy is ook gesê vir die mense sy is wit. Anyway, but what I want to say now, without jokes aside, I like your statement, and this is not to make it a racial issue because we do speak to a lot
No,
of people
it's
from
an
different
issue.
color.
You
This
can
is
make
not
it
a racial
racial if
thing.
you want to, but it's an issue.
But I like Lisa said also. Lisa said 100% men of color do not come up for women of color. And our women are so
Yeah, they
freaking
don't.
beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful women. I mean, even some of their manners and the way they're hardworking etiquette and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, we can be powerhouses if we really look after our neighborhood and our people. But because of the unsafe nature and all this, not just the men, but our guys that's fearful of cops, even what's happening in America, we also fearful like that in our neighborhood, you know? So here's the twist to go back to the topic. Want ek wil nou nie hê die DA moet ek wil nou nie hê
Waarvoor
die
praat
DA
ons nou weer?
So we're making it a political, yeah.
ja, ek wil nou nie hê DA moet die uitshare vir hulle marketing campaign nie.
No, no, no.
But yeah, let's just go to some comments. So I don't know if we read it out.
So Andre says, fully agree with you, Soli. This goes back way back, long time. Never taught to express our feelings, not speaking and verbalizing what just happened or bothering us, and we suffer many years later in every other relationship, at work, friends, family, and sadly we gaslight and explode so many things to unlearn and learn again.
And dan says Sharon weer, nie Grand
Oh,
West.
that's
She
a
says,
great comment. That's a great
Sharon is
comment.
not talking about Grand West because this is too long ago what she's talking about. She says Adam and Eva het ook geargue oor 'n slang in die appel. And look where
Adam eventually listened to Eve, which obviously
no, you see, like, if he didn't argue and he was just a man and told her, Eve, don't eat the fucking apple, then Eve wouldn't have, he should have just put his foot down and not argue. The argument might
Ons almal nog in God wil Eden.
But you see, that story backs up your argument, though. That arguing isn't natural.
But I'm
Because
saying,
Eve said, Adam, I know the Lord said we mustn't eat the apple. No. Ma, that wasn't argument. That was persuasion.
no,
That
but
was
they
just
just put the leaf away.
Kyk hoe mooi rooi die appel. He wasn't like, he was just like, but eat die Here het gesê. Just he said, come on man, wie gaat wie? Die Here gaat die kom ons eet dit. That wasn't an argument. That was manipulation.
So we need to no, but this is what happens in arguments also. To win a fight in an argument, you manipulate that partner. And that's what people do.
true.
That's what
They
people do.
gaslight.
Again,
You see,
again,
what I do
okay.
in argument, what I do in
Wag julle twee. No. Wag. That's true if people argue with agendas. So we're back to Lithia's point. If you're arguing with an agenda, if you go, okay, nou vanaand gaan ek nou vir die jong lekker vertel, en as ek nou met daai vertel, dan gaan nou môre so, en dan gaan dit so, en dan gaan dit so.
En dan weet jy uit die
You're setting yourself up for disappointment because who knows how an argument's going to end.
Depends on the mood you're in. Because you can tell me the same thing over and over. It's not going to bother me. But then the one day I'm in the crappiest of moods,
It's a period. Yeah.
you say that same thing to me again. I bite your head off.
Save your ma. That's first.
And that's just how it is.
But
But
that's
again,
my
that's
point,
not an
guys.
argument.
That's my
That's
point.
not an argument.
What
That's
do
an
we
explosion.
teach?
That's
What
like
do-
a
This is why I
irritation.
said. This is why I said, Soli, we must leave the word argument and say we must find a healthy way to debate with our partners. I don't argue because I am freaking manipulative. As 'n regtig 'n argument moet aanvat. I can twist your words and I know it about me. I can be real narcissistic and I know that strengths that I have. No, I'm honest.
Because the point is, the person you're arguing with knows that as well. So,
So what I
you know
do, what I do, Soli,
I mean,
what I
she's not
do.
sitting there going, "Hi, you're not Byron, you're innocent."
But this is why I don't argue. But this is why I don't argue with people that I love anymore. I only argue or debate with people that I don't really have that much closeness with, because then I'm gonna bury you. But when I'm with my people that I love, I rather tell them, let's reflect on this, just leave this, because if I'm gonna speak further, you're gonna get angry. Because I know my words is gonna twist the story further and further and further. So rather let's stop it there and we find a common ground to know what I'm saying is because I love you, and what you're saying is because you love me. You see, people don't reflect on their weaknesses, on their strengths, because sometimes your strength can be very detrimental in a relationship. Also, it can hurt the relationship badly.
Well, a
So,
I
strength
like
can
to,
either be a weakness or a strength,
yes,
depending on how you use it.
yes,
you're making sense, but I again want to say that I'm a great believer in like things are because for a reason. Then your capacity for argument must have some kind of there must be some reason why that is. And like they always say the bad man is the good man's lesson and al daai sulke goeie. But the idea is that argument as a concept, you don't have to argue with someone. You could just by yourself unpick an argument. You can have an argument around this idea of what does that mean, and then play devil's advocate with yourself, and because it is in the strong stating of both points. I thought that one of the huge benefits that my children knew going into the world, or that they got from growing up in a dual-headed household, was that two people could feel completely different about something, could have two completely different approaches to life, could come from two different backgrounds and agree on a way of moving forward, and that agreement was arrived at through argument.
I love
Because
that.
argue your point. Tell me why you think it is important that every day we tell our children, I love you, regardless of what they do. My argument
Affirmation,
for
yeah.
why that is important is that every child should know that before anything else happens, before they do anything or you do anything, they should know that. That would be my argument. What's yours? Are you in agreement with me, or would you say no? Rather, I think a child
I
should
agree with
deserve
you.
that. Stand your bedoeling.
Right.
It's
100%. And I agree with what Soli says. And I think that we need to distinguish between healthy and unhealthy arguing. And when it comes to unhealthy arguing, we need to then find the red flags. We need to spot the red flags because, I mean, for me, my personal experience, arguing can be emotionally and mentally draining. And I don't like the feeling that I have after arguing. So
yeah.
I needed to figure out a different way to address the situation because I didn't like the way it made me feel. And also the effect it has on a relationship, whether it be through a romantic relationship, a relationship with your siblings, or your parents, or colleagues. It is emotionally draining. So if you are arguing and not getting to a solution, then you are lacking conflict resolution skills, which is vital in any relationship. And I think that we need to understand that we have different personalities and there will be personality clashes, but we need to learn to move and navigate through those differences.
Say for
Lovely.
instance, Soli, I want to bring this up for instance. Now, Anja said near Byron, los daai narcissistic maniere kan hulle, let that shit go. You see,
Hoor maar
this is
daar
what,
by die mense na Byron, that's baie
no,
goed,
no,
that's
but
very
this
good
is
advice.
the
Very good
problem
advice.
I have with a lot of us youngsters today. I use the word narcissistic freely, and I call myself also one because no one wants to classify themselves as a narcissist. Unfortunately, all of us humans are narcissists. You guys you haven't gotten to the grips of the society and what society has put in your head. You sleeping under a blanket, you're a narcissist. There's someone else cold out there. Klar. So that argues my point on that one. So we need to understand if you get the grips of the what I made the example with.
Wait. What? There's someone
I'm
sleeping under a blanket, and because you covering yourself, you're a narcissist?
Listen to what I'm saying.
Is
We
that what
all
you're
have
saying?
narcissistic traits that makes ourselves narcissists to look after ourselves first to benefit ourselves in this life also. We need to, you hear the kids say self-love, you need to care for yourself before you can pour out to someone else. You need to do this for yourself before you can for someone else. Just listen carefully. So why I use the word narcissistic?
Wait.
Luister gou eerste.
Wait. Let me argue here quickly first. Sorry, Byron. You know, we live on the streets with homeless people,
Exactly.
and the most extraordinary things, the most extraordinary about that is the concern that people show for other people in
Oh,
similar
yes. I'm
situations.
not saying there's not people like that out
So-
there. There's lots. That's
No,
not
but
what I'm saying.
I'm saying, in a situation where their survival is also at risk. They show concern for other people's survival at risk, which is extraordinary capacity for human being.
Oh
But
yeah.
my concern for I'm cold and I need to cover myself, that's got nothing to do with narcissism. It's
But
got nothing to do with
I think you must understood. You use the thing literally to your side. What I'm saying is that we all have narcissistic traits, even with our thoughts. The end of the day, especially in the human life we're in today, everybody is hippie, everybody's into something, everybody is into tune with themselves because there's so much information out there, Soli. And ek het just as ek 'n hele dag hieroor praat or argue or debate as you would like to call it. But I believe there's a lot of narcissists in the world. Even people that don't want to classify themselves as narcissists is probably front runners to be a narcissist. You see, the problem I find in society is that they can diagnose themselves. I'm an empath. I cared more about it because we have lack of reflection and a lack of stepping back and saying, what do I do in this situation? What have I done? Or we have too much people again pouring into themselves. What have I done? Because they know they've caught on shit. So they overthink it again. And then you get people without the conscious and don't care what they've done or what has been done. You see, we all have this narcissistic traits. So we're all in some way narcissistic and we're all in some way empaths. You give your care to what you want to give your care, and you give your love to what you want to give your love to what's your calling or your calling towards life. And you also disagree with
I
those
think I would have
that you
believed
don't.
that.
Eh?
I think I would have believed you. I would have probably agreed with you 150% a year ago. But in working in food provision, like we have been for the last year, I want to tell you, Byron, I have met the most incredible people with so little, with
Oh yeah.
themselves so close to the edge, who live so selflessly and so extraordinarily. I have seen women across this Cape Flats. It's reminded me that
Oh, the human.
what we tend to do is we tend to get sucked in by those little narcissistic fucks. Is what we do, and we obsess about how they are, and we want to debate them and argue with them. But actually, they're distractions. The people we should be engaging with are those extraordinary men and women of all ages who are out there being extraordinarily selfless.
So why are we not? Why are we
Really
not?
looking
Soli? First question, why are we not? My mother's been doing a soup kitchen
because hang on,
for 50 yeah.
narcissistic little shits like yourself wants to sit there and talk about. I don't think argument is
I use it as an
natural.
argument. But why are we not? My mother's been doing a soup kitchen for 15 years, Soli. Let's put it like this. She's been feeding, my parents don't have much money, but doing it for 15 years. She only got so-called sponsorship a year ago. The same people that's in that clique, that's helping, the same people that's so good-hearted, that's giving up with the other soup kitchen, are the ones of the front runners say, do not vir die geld. Only in the last year or 15 years, that same people you call out, that's nice. Remember, 'n gesiggie en 'n gesel is maklik om weg te skuif en een kant te wys en vir mense te voer vir die wêreld om te wys. My ma het nog nooit daai gedoen nie. And this is why I say, everything can turn out to be. We need to first reflect and stop diagnosing ourselves. I use the word narcissist to empower people.
No, that's not true. The truth is, your mother does all that stuff. Whose responsibility is, because I'm going to tell you this, and I've seen this for sure, that's exactly what people like your mother do. Because they're not narcissistic and because they don't know how to put themselves front and center. The front and center gets occupied by narcissists unpicking their narcissism. And your mother over there, who's got fuck all time for that shit, she's actually out there doing the real things of living. And one of the real things of living is not unpicking narcissists' problems with themselves.
Why do you think we have this?
Or entering engagements with them about it, or arguments with them about it, because they're busy with the real business of living, which is giving people food. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that even you bring your mother into this conversation on the strength of, my mother doesn't get enough attention. Why aren't you giving your mother more attention? Why have you not done a program about, Mom, talk to us about what it is that you do, because what you do is amazing and no one else is talking about it. That's my point. And we hear about the people in food provision who bitch and carry on. But let me tell you about the people who never bitch. Never. All they do is, like your mother, do amazing stuff with challenges from other people going, yeah, maar waar kry jy daai? Who don't know? He's Jane. And then they
Now we
still
know
do it.
now we know Soli is going to give more sponsorships towards my mother. Dankie Soli. Ek wil net daar gevra. Ek lekker die gekry gaan by pa môre jou nommers toe.
Byron, it's
Mas mos your empath. Come on.
good heart. They do the job because they want to do it. And then you get the people that use food provision to get in money so that they can enrich themselves.
Look after themselves. Make
And-
themselves okay.
And
That's why
that-
they're doing it.
That is so not cool. Because then you find people like your mother that could actually use that money.
And really feed people. Do what they say
Yeah.
they do. Muhammad Japi in Mitchell's Plain.
Oh,
Do amazing.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. There's a lot of amazing people out there, and this is the reason why we do the show. So we do the show to make people understand perspective. The problem is in today's life, we have so many entitled people in the world. They rather want you to say something and move on. They don't want to understand your situation. They just want you to understand their situation. This is why I say the world is trapped with people that don't understand. They have too much information and they don't understand how to live life anymore. This is the
And
biggest
we're
problem.
going to shift it if we can argue about it.
Hey?
We
Hey,
can
you
only
like
shift it
argument.
if we can
You want
argue
to
about
use
it.
the word argument. He doesn't want to let go.
Let's just go to some of the
Comments.
comments because we almost at the end of the show, so this goes very quickly. So
Yeah, I
Dylan,
told you it goes like this. It's over.
exactly. Dylan James says, how many couples these days argue because they come from a background where their parents constantly argue? I think they think that it is a normal part of a relationship. If there are no arguments, they feel the need to possibly start one. Ooh. And then if you can go to Sharon.
Good point.
My ma en pa tot die dood, hulle geskel getroud met al my pa se physical, emotional, verbal abuse. Okay. And then Pearl Gumede says, best that one deals with the anger issues before getting into a relationship. If not, then you are further crippling yourself, health, and that of the other person.
I
That
love
is
that
unfair.
comment. Love that
100%.
comment.
That's so good, hey. That's good. That's
Yeah,
good. And because it's also you can go to school to learn how to do things. No one teaches you about relationships. So you kind of expected to. There you go, and good luck, everyone.
Exactly, and that's the thing that
Really.
we don't understand. Relationships is one of the biggest reasons why so many people suffer from mental illness, such as depression or anxiety, because they don't know how to resolve their own emotional disturbance, as well as how to actually resolve conflict within a relationship. So
And then if we think, and I mean, I know Dylan is very aware of this because he also works in this area, but if you realistically think about the scenario around mental health in our country, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. We're in trouble.
And then Anjay says, give that man a bells. Let's talk about it. Rationalize and come to common grounds about why you feel the sky is green and the grass is pink. I am eager to hear and understand the reason.
I love that, yeah.
And Dylan says, they say drunk words are sober thoughts. Does the same ring true during an argument? Are people expressing what they can't when things... I didn't see that finish.
Oh,
It's interesting because people say most that it's opgewerkt and now it's actually valid, but
fine,
I
yeah.
don't think
And
so.
things are fine.
I think
Yeah,
you say things you
and
don't.
they-
You argue differently. You want to be hurtful.
And as
Yeah.
says, I think arguing is a natural part. We tend to disagree because we are all unique. So we will disagree on many things. The bottom line is, why do some people want to convert you to their opinion? That's what I'm talking about. While not
That's
accepting or
so good.
respecting your point of view.
Ooh, so
That's so
That's what I also
That's so
stand on and I agree with. Do you?
That's so
And then
good.
let me first go to this one. Entitlement. That is the problem, not only in life, but in relationships as well. I and not we. Ooh.
Ooh, this
And
is
then
brilliant
let-
comments that's coming through.
There's questions. There's one question from Lorraine before we go. Question is, arguing normal? Is it not the way of resolving a problem? Okay, we've dealt with that kind of. We said kind of it is. Do you always want to be right or do you want to win in life? These are the questions. Nou begin die regte vrae kom want ons gaan wait I saw my name and said Byron, forget that you said the word narcissistic. I was referring to the point that you mentioned you don't want to argue any further because you have the way of twisting your words, so you don't want to argue any further because it can go out of hand. And this is why I said I don't want to use my narcissistic trait, because I have spotted that I can do those things. So I'll rather stop a conversation just there till we can feature a rational one. Like Farina said, we all have narcissistic traits.
But I
Anyway,
think that's healthy. But I want to disagree with you and Verena. I think that's healthy. What you're doing is healthy when you feel your negative stuff kick in
that's right.
to engage from I think that's really really healthy. But I think it also indicates that you need to do some work on that. Because it's not. You can't just disengage from a
But
demonstration. Okay, well,
you
the
and I still have a
honorable
show to
committee
do
on
alone.
loss, and then you never speak about it. You
You
No,
and
no,
I
no.
still have a
You
show
come
to do
back.
alone.
Please calm down.
No. You don't though. If it's gonna trigger you, it's gonna trigger you again.
But Soli,
It's
you
gonna
and I
trigger
still
you
have a
again.
show to do alone around narcissism. We still have a show we must do alone on Byron McDonald around narcissism.
Oh, you know what? I have this whole thing. Like, I am of the firm conviction that statement, if you don't love yourself, how are you going to love anybody else? I'm a believer in that.
Yep.
Because loving yourself, you learn how to love someone else. You learn what's appreciable, what you have to like kind of, oh, am I a bit of a doer like that? Oh, then how does one accommodate that in living so that it's not a strain on someone else? And then you learn to do that with other people. And then you start doing that thing where you go, actually, I have no reason to be upset because he's behaving like that, because I understand. He's being a doer when it's be like that. So it's got nothing to do with me. He's just being a
No,
doer.
ko Sharon ni argue ni.
You see? Do you
Right.
see? Yeah.
Soli,
Soli and Sharon, we have come
Oh,
to
it's
the
lovely,
end
you
of
guys.
the show. And what we usually do at the end of the show is just give you a few minutes to share anything valuable that you'd like to share with the viewers. So you and Sharon will be big on the screen, and you can go ahead and
I didn't say you must strip, Soli. I didn't. Strip.
Not happening, Byron. Dream on, though.
Hey.
Dream on.
I'm looking forward to our future show.
Soli and Sharon. So the screen is all
That's
yours.
right. Yeah, it's all you guys on the screen now.
Us. We love what we do.
I think if it's like even just based on our relationship, which is one of friendship and colleagues and members of the same community, I think for me there's a certain amount of appreciation of self, and I don't like to think of it as narcissism. I think it is knowing where your line is, what you would do and what you wouldn't do, and then finding within that engagement your parameters, and if that then becomes true, finding the space within that to speak honestly about something that bothers you. And if it then has to be an argument that you have to present because you're moving because that's what an argument is. It's trying to shift these parameters so that they fit comfortably for both of us. And if it's about that, then the appreciation of self, the healthiness, the maturity is that when we're engaging now here like this, it's not about my existential me. It's not about my worth as a human being. It's not about my value. It's around behavior. It's around attitude, and it's around process. And those are functioning things about living. And you can talk about those things without touching your core, without having to touch someone else's core. Is to say, with respect, with love, we can even go, yep, Sharon, and then she can laugh because it's in the space in which we need for things to grow and get better. And sometimes you have to kill the negativity with a lekker solid maar tuis mos stront man. Nee, jy kan niet so nie. Tuis mos niet stront. Because sometimes as human beings we obsess about engaging negative shit. That's why people like to skin her. I'm just saying.
That is Soli.
It's bad.
Like that.
It's bad. It's the truth.
Lovely. Love the comments. They say
you both have strong points.
it's
Our
Strong
strong point is Soli speaks for the both of us.
that's why they said
But
Hilton
not, but
team
not
Soli
because I'm
tonight.
sucking something out of my thumb. But again, I want to be clear, not because I'm sucking something out of my thumb, but it's because we discuss these things. And so
Yes.
when I am holding forth, like I'm holding forth on topics that we discuss when we're in the car, when we're heading somewhere, we're talking about life and we're talking about the meaning of these things and we're talking about what we're trying to accomplish. And so I'm talking about an ongoing conversation that we have. I'm not speaking namensons.
Yeah.
I'm speaking about what the things, the places we arrive at and the journey we're on.
Love that. Love that. Thank you guys so much for being on the show again. We really appreciated your time. And it's
So
so
we just do shout out for Lizelle and Kieran. We love you so much, Lizelle. And Dylan.
Dylan, Maggie,
and Andre is on your team tonight. Andre
So
said
Andre-
Hilton team Soli tonight.
Love his way of
Maggie,
thinking
hey,
and listening, finding healthy ways to speak, verbalize, and express yourself and not end or stop else it's about to get ugly. So Andre loves all the value that both you and Sharon have shared here tonight.
En toe praat hulle 'n bietjie van die hond. Toe sê hulle that dog been trying to put this penny in the plate the whole time in the show. Praat hulle van die arme hond.
maar dog Wakanda, met
Wakanda.
die sag met.
En
animal IDT.
Beverly de Wet sê voor 'n man af aan gesteel het, was sy ook 'n Philander gewees.
Oh, well, lucky you, Beverly. Ek ken nie Philanders, meisie. Jy gaan my niks sê van hulle nie.
So Soli and Sharon, thank you so much for taking up your time to be guest host on our show tonight and for all the value that you've shared with the viewers. They all loved it based on the comments. They love everything that you said here on the show. And yeah, definitely all of them are Team Soli tonight, I think.
Yes. Our team Soli won. It's the first time, even though Byron tried to twist it to give a different perspective, someone at least won on the right side. I always let the wrong side win to make the people understand.
Byron, fuck your loss, man, and move on.
Move on, Byron.
Byron, how many shows
Wat is
did
met
you
jou
do?
en Sharon?
Season
Hy
3.
is toe van Brand West af. Sy moet
Season
uitgaan.
3.
Sy het honger.
I
Season
the
3.
argument gewen.
But anyway,
Thank you so
that's
much.
why you're going so
Sharon.
I can end the show properly. As Nicolene
Bye-bye,
said,
you guys.
Team Byron.
Love you. It's lovely being on. Lovely being on.
See you guys. Keep
Bye-bye.
well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. I enjoyed that show.
It was a brilliant show. So much value that I shared. And if you feel that anybody in your circle or within your network can gain value from the amazing content that was shared here tonight, please go ahead, like and share the video and like and share our page, and go ahead and like and share our YouTube page as well.
Anja said 1 hour is way too short, man. Please extend the time. You can always cut the time for TV. Sorry
It's
for
going to
them.
be a lot of editing, eh?
There's a lot of kyk vanaand toe sit ek, maar ek was lui gewees heel week.
So-
What's the other one? So to me personally, from Lucille, to me personally, it's not about arguing. It's more about defending my thinking and beliefs. We need to understand not everything is an argument or disagreement. We tend to defend what we believe and how we feel about certain issues. Whew, another debate for another day. Ek gaan laat Soli wen van. Ek gaan dit nou nog gaan druk nie. Anyway,
So thank you so much for tuning in and engaging, and for all your comments and the value that you also shared with us here tonight. We will see you next week Sunday, and please don't forget to watch Cape Town Television on Mondays at 9 p.m. to catch the episode that will be playing tomorrow evening.
Okay.
Have a lovely evening. We love you and good night.
Good night.